Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma here to about Märchen Crown, chapter number 28. This chapter is titled Little Red because, of course, we gotta add our third fairy tale inspired character. I say inspired character like this series has always been about fairy tales. I mean, heck, we've had Rapunzel, we've had Cinderella, and now we are adding Little Red Riding Hood into the mix. And just from one chapter alone, I can go and tell you this is my least favorite out of all the three fairy tales that Märchen Crown has copied so far. I have a lot of very weird problems with this chapter, but we will get in there to talking about this just very interesting chapter of Märchen Crown. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, and boy, are you about to watch the video. But all of that being said, we first need to talk about what happened last time in Märchen Crown, and oh, you know what? Last chapter is very inconsequential to what happened this time. We learned about the story engine of Märchen Crown, really the lore of the entire world, and this chapter we throw all of that out because as we begin, we see that Mikel is walking through the woods, as he's repeating a little bit of narration that we hear. They say in a forest that spreads through the mountains northeast of the castle town lives a terrible and fearsome wolf that preys and eats on humans. As we see a girl whose name we won't learn in this chapter, but we know it next time as Volka, so I will just be calling her Volka now for the simplicity of everybody's sanity pretty much. As we see this young girl, Volka, in this red attire is walking around, and she's got some flowers in her hands all bundled together in a bouquet, and she's like, all right, that looks so pretty, hee. I really hope grandmother will love it. And she's sort of walking around this forest and just admiring all of these flowers in her hands, and as she's walking, she's like, ugh, oh no, I think I dilly-dally too long, as some crows are flapping above in the sky above her. As this little girl, Volka, just remembers to her mother, who earlier today was just like, all right, now go straight there and don't delay, all right? And she's like, oh, I gotta remember, I promised my mother, and we also see a little bit of an image where Volka's mother is telling her, naughty kids who break their promises will be eaten by the wolf. And Volka's like, oh no, I don't want that to be me, as she's sort of running on like, okay, I got it. I better go in and hurry to my grandmother's house. And as time goes on, as she's going and running on her way, Volka hears a little bit of rustling in some neighboring bushes, and she stops and jolts around and looks over like, no way, could it be the big bad wolf? As we see a figure comes out of the bushes, and oh hey, we know this guy, it's Mikel. It's no big bad wolf. As Mikel gets out of these bushes, and he sort of like brushes off the side of his face, and he's like, oh my gosh, did I finally reach a clearing? And Volka looks at Mikel, and she's like, oh, what is this? As Mikel's like, oh, hey, do you live around these parts? Like, oh my gosh, I am so glad I ran into someone. Like, this forest is a maze. Like, I was just completely lost. And Volka, holding all of these flowers in her hands, brings them up to her chest, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's a boy, as she just starts freaking out here in the moment. But it's at this point that we do a flashback to establish to us readers why Mikel is in these woods. We see that Mikel is sort of running around in a little bit of paneling, explaining to us that this is earlier that morning. As Mikel is walking around, he's like, oh, this forest has a pretty different feel to the one from before. Like, I'm really not sure why he entrusted this to me. Well, I guess everyone's very busy, so it sort of is what it is. As we just see an image of Mikel sitting at the desk of his royal throne now, and he's like, all right, Mikel, just please do this for me. There's been some trouble with a wolf in the Eastern Earldom, but we don't really have the personnel to spare right now. Like, man, Mikel, I am really sorry, but can you go investigate it for me? Or even better, just take care of it for me. He's like, as you can see, I'm just like so busy, and he's just got all of these papers stacked up next to him, right? And we also get a little bit of an image where Rapunzel's like, hey, I really want to come too, like, just let me. And she's just doing all this stuff, but Lafina's like, hey, it's all right, just be a good girl and wait for Mikel to come back. And Mikel, as he's walking around the woods, is even like, man, I bet Rapunzel is really, really worried about me. Like, I've got to get done of this very quickly and then get back to her, right? And he's walking through the woods, and oh no, he notices something on the ground, and it is a human who has been butchered open pretty much. We see part of his neck is gone, just the exposed blood and just the inside of like the bones, we can even see them. And he's just been ripped open. Of course, eaten by a wolf is the implication. And Mikel's like, was this that wolf's doing? But like, this is really odd. I can't imagine any wolf attacking a human in this manner. And in the background, he then hears an "oh!" And Michael's like, oh, I need to find it quick before any more victims appear. As we now cut back to the present, where of course Volka is like, oh my gosh, it's a boy, it is like a young man, like he's nothing like the little kids or old men from the village. And like, is it just me, or is he brimming with sex appeal? As we just get an image of Michael drawn in a very interesting way, like it's just Volka sort of like fantasizing here in the moment. This is definitely the beginning of the parts of this chapter where I'm like, this is pretty weird. But Michael then sort of gets up in Volka's face and he's like, hey, maybe this girl doesn't understand my language, but Michal didn't say anything about like a language barrier up in these parts. As he gets right up in Volka's face and he's like, oh my gosh, what is this thing pretty much? And Volka's like, oh, he is just so close, and she screams out like, please don't come any closer. And Michael's like, oh good, you can talk pretty much. And of course, to this, like, I understand what the authors were trying to get across here, as we see that Volka's like, remembers back to her mother telling her some stuff earlier in the day, like, hey, if you meet any men in the woods, you mustn't show them your face or skin. And Volka's like, oh, why, mother? As their mother just says, because men will want to gobble up any young lady that they see. And of course, Volka's like, oh no, he is going to eat me. And she's like, oh, I see. The wolf everybody talks about actually refers to men. It's because I didn't do as my mother told me. Now I'm going to get eaten by this big bad wolf. And Michael's sort of just like standing here like, what is going on here? Like, she looks like she's really afraid for some reason. As Michael just thinks like, hey, it doesn't seem like she'll talk to me unless I find some way to prove that I am not hostile. And he sort of kneels down on Volka's level, and for some reason he leans forward and he sniffs Volka, and he's like, what a lovely smell. And Volka's like, look at this, like he wants to eat me. He's not even trying to hide his hunger, like he's smelling me. As Michael then goes and sits beside Volka on the ground, and he's like, hey, there's something I'd like to ask you. And she's just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? She remembers to another thing as Volka remembers to another thing that her mother told her, that wolves hunt by flanking you from the side. So she's like, he's sitting beside me, oh no, and she tries to dash away as quick as she can, and for some reason there is just a hole in the ground. Michael will explain here in a minute that it's a giant earthworm burrow, but either way, Volka goes and she falls in this hole feet first. But she doesn't go all the way through because, oh my gosh, her bazongas are so big, they keep her pretty much floating above the air, like they catch on all the dirt around the hole. And she's like, oh no, it's a trap, I can't move, and I have no way to defend myself now. Like, I've already been caught in this big bad wolf's trap. I was playing right into his hand from the very start. And she starts to cry like, please, at least do it gently. Of course, like, even more of a misunderstanding for... Oh my goodness. As Michael then pulls Volka out of the hole, and Michael's like, oh my gosh, like this is a giant earthworm burrow, and like, wow, they say that they leave these holes behind where they eat all the soil, so you should be very careful, girl. And then, like, Volka's now like looking like, wait, he saved me, he didn't eat me, he pulled me out of the trap, and she's like, what do you want from me? Like, I'm really scared. And Michael's like, no, please, like, why are you crying? Like, you're the one who's really scaring me. We see that eventually, it seems like a little bit of a time later, as Michael sort of explained himself a little bit. And Volka's like, oh, so you just want to know how to get to the village around here? But, like, what for? Are you going to eat my mother? And Michael's like, come on, like, nobody is eating anyone. As Michael just explains, like, hey, I'm investigating a wolf that eats humans. That's why I want to speak with the people of your village. And Volka's like, oh, so are you a hunter? And Michael just like thinks for a second. Well, yeah, I actually think that that's a very good way to describe me. And Volka's like, okay then. Well, if you want, you can wait for me to finish my errand, and then I'll take you to the village. But in return, please, promise me that you'll hunt the wolf down. If you don't, then we'll never be able to live in peace. And Michael sort of excels, and he's like, yeah, of course. That was my goal. I promise. Well, a little while later, we see that both Michael and Volka make it to Little Red's, or Volka's house, pretty much. And Volka sort of walks up, and she's like, oh, grandmother, are you not home? as she's just knocking on the door repeatedly, and eventually she's like, "That's so strange. There's no way that Grandma wouldn't," as Volka opens the door and walks into the house. And as she sort of does, Mikel says like, "Hey, hold up. As he walks inside, "I know this scent. Stay back away," as Mikel enters the house first. As we see that Volka's grandmother is dead, blood spilled from all of her guts, as we see that the wolf has gotten her. And Mikel, even to finish off the chapter, is like, "Oh no, the wolf." And that's where we end this chapter of Märchen Crown at chapter number 28. Man, I really understand what this chapter is trying to do. It's trying to get us introduced to this character Volka, who, as I said, I would just call her Little Red, but I've read the next chapter, so I know what to actually call her here. And we get this whole idea of the wolf, and we understand why Mikel is coming here to hunt the wolf down. Misunderstandings between Volka and Mikel, it would be whatever, but my one problem is that Volka is just drawn to look so young. And as we'll learn in a few chapters, Volka is relatively young compared to everything. So it's a little bit of the over-sexualization of this character is just something that I feel very uncomfortable reading as a 20-year-old guy, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know, I also don't particularly like that we no longer are following Rapunzel as well. It's just Mikel, as we'll see for a good portion of this arc. And then, the whole twisting of the chapters, the wolf has already eaten the grandmother, is very interesting. But it's also not, totally great. I don't know. I just mainly have problems with Volka in this chapter that really bring down the rest of the total experience for me. But yeah, I know this was a very short one, but that's really all I want to say about this chapter of Märchen Crown. Again, chapter number 28. It just wasn't really my thing. So hopefully next time we have a better chapter of Märchen Crown. But yeah, this one just really wasn't doing it for me. But hey, if you don't want to check out all my other Märchen Crown videos, very luckily for you, I have a playlist here on this very YouTube channel where you can check out all of those. It'll be linked in the description box of this video along with the end card of this video as well. And yeah, with all that being said, I'll catch you guys next time for Märchen Crown chapter number 29. This was chapter number 28 titled Little Red. And yeah, I'll catch you guys then. This will be Glowplasma, signing